Yeah, let's go.
Hi, everyone. Today I am interviewing Goblin, who happens to be my first Kiwi. So I didn't know you could find many goblins in New Zealand, but here we are.
You
How's
can
it,
find
how's it
many
going,
hobbits.
Goblin? Hmm?
There's lots of hobbits around here, but maybe
Yes,
not goblins.
definitely heard of the hobbits. But how's it going? What's new?
I'm all right, bro. I've just nothing too much happening in my life. Like just working a new job. Well, at least for like a month, so that's something, I suppose. But there's nothing. My life ain't too exciting. You understand? That's why I gotta talk to people online like you.
Why is your life not exciting?
Oh, because I'm a lazy bastard. like for, like I'm 22, right? And
Yep.
I've only got a learner's license, for example, because I'm lucky enough to have know a lot of people who could drop me off places, but that means my autonomy is kind of a bit fucked. So I got to spend a lot of time like reading, looking into things. So my hobbies tend to like align around like what I can relax with. I love vibing. That's
You love vibing.
hell yeah, my bro. Just chilling out. Like, is there anything better than having like the boys around for a beer or something and just talking shit with some good tunes?
Makes sense. Makes sense. So what hobbies do you like? What are some of these hobbies which are good for vibing?
Ah, fuck. I guess my main thing is like music. I'm a big music
Yeah.
guy. I listen to a lot of stuff. I had like a little phase where, I mean, I still want to do it, but like, I wanted to do like a channel where I'd react to music and stuff with a mate. That's still kind of slightly in the works. He wants to do his own version of it. So depending on how it goes, I love to do band stuff. I make my own music. I listen to a lot of music. Um, Aside from that, is like typology and all that. I like fashion. There's just a lot of things. Does alcohol count as a hobby? That's pretty cool.
I guess it does. It is certainly perhaps the society's oldest hobby, you could say. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So I guess let's ask you what kinds of music do you like and why?
Oh, dog. I listen to everything, but like everybody says they listen to everything. So like that's kind of cheating. My main bag is like experimental hip hop and all that stuff. I love that. Just mostly because that's where the genre, not genre, but like the most interesting stuff happening in music right now is kind of in that space. So
Yeah.
I find it really interesting to follow, to like see. Oh, at least when you get like a new guy on the scene, it's like you can really like recognize it. Like for example, I know some people know what I'm talking about here. There was an album called Hollow to Red that dropped in 2020 or something, and like just from then on, there's already a bunch of people like copying the sound off of it, and it's like so interesting to see in like real time where it's going. But aside from that, like I had a little jazz phase recently, collecting records and all that. The only thing I find it hard to get into like folk and country, for example.
Yeah.
It's not that it's like too slow. I think it's just like the aesthetics of it, like just don't draw me in. As an example, there's like a singer-songwriter album I really liked called A Crow Looked at Me from a guy called Mount Airy.
Yeah.
And like, oh my God, it's so sad. It's horrendously sad. It was like, when I was listening to it, I actually had to stop like every two songs because I was crying too hard. I was like,
Oh my
no,
goodness.
I've got to finish it. I have to finish it. So that was really good. But mostly it doesn't. I still need to give Bob Dylan a chance though. Maybe he'll change my mind.
Hmm. Okay. So it's interesting. Like for you, you start with everything, and then it almost have to force you to actually narrow that down. So that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. Well, that's the thing, right? Is like how I think about things is that like you have room for like being reasonable, etc., and then you can also have the monkey brain that like just attaches to things, the emotional part.
Yeah.
And I, when I'm trying to be reasonable, right, I'll like listen to a large amount of stuff that I know I won't like. For example, like I'm not a big Drake fan, but I've heard a decent amount of Drake. Still don't like him. But
Mhm.
or like if something's known for being horrendous, I'm like, I have to hear this. I have to give it at least a fair shot. I have to give it props on what it's doing. But then also, you know, I just, sometimes you just want them comfort picks. Sometimes you just find a track. It might be really stupid. It might be a really dumb song, but like if it makes you go, yeah, I love this, then you just gotta stick with it. You know, like, yes. Sometimes it's gotta be irrational.
So, what got you into typology?
Oh man, it would have been it's so sad. It's such a tragedy. It was 16 personality. Ah, my heart.
Oh,
I know. But it was when I was like, like 19, 18-ish.
yeah.
Yeah. And the real hook and sinker that got me into it, because I showed my friends the test, and everybody got INFP, INFJ, of course, because that website is horrible. But the thing that got me into it was actually Dave Powers' objective personality. Like videos on the subjects that was fascinating, and I was like, this is really well explained and presented. It's easily accessible, bite size. I thought it was like at a functional level, it was just so good. Too bad the system's a bit convoluted. It's not convoluted, it's just a bit complicated. It works in its own little space, but like, so I'm moving more into socionics now, like, because like I know Myers-Briggs and Enneagram and all that, but like they're just so movable, bro. Like, fuck. You can make anybody any type with Myers-Briggs. I swear to God. Yeah. Like, it's just like you just focus on one tiny little thing, you can make a whole narrative out of it, and it kills the system. Enneagram's a bit better, but
Yep. Sometimes, have you heard of Eric Thor?
Yeah, of course I know Eric Thor. Yeah.
I think Eric Thor is finally killing MBTI. Like he's finally putting the last nail in the coffin, as it were.
Like how so? Like, you mean like he's just like done with it? He's like, actually.
Well, no, he's kind of done with the restrictions of types, and he's doing all these cartoons now saying this is an ESFJ, and she thought she couldn't be intelligent and analytical, but actually she can be. And so eventually, it's just the eventual. It's like the death of the universe will eventually happen. This is the death of the Myers-Briggs type indicator, and Eric Thor is the Grim Reaper for the Myers-Briggs. That's how I'm seeing it.
I love to see him because he's so nice and like sweet. He's like a little bunny rabbit. So like imagining him as the bringer of death for Myers-Briggs is really funny to me.
Yes,
he comes in like with a big cloak and his little thing, and he's like, "Oh guys, I'm killing you now."
Absolutely. So what else? Let me see. So okay, so it's interesting there. You there's a scrutinizing mind there. This idea that something could be interpreted in multiple different ways. It could be easily changed. That thing makes you think, oh, maybe this theory isn't actually so solid. But then you look at, say, Dave's superpowers, and you find that's almost too convoluted. There's too much mess going on there.
Well, I don't know about that. I think, okay, so for example, right, like, I think Socionics is great. From the systems that I've seen, it seems it's the most fleshed out, consistent, easy to get. It's not that it's easy to get. It's just like take an objective personality, the whole like flipping thing. Like, you think you're this type, actually, idiot, you fool. You're actually the reverse. But I'm like, the definitions don't seem solid enough. Whereas in Socionics with things like intertype relations and all that, like it gets very specific. And I think that's like the clarity of that is it's really useful. The problem for me is this is fucked up. I love reading, but I hate reading. This is a quote from Cosmic Skeptic, the channel. He's an atheist guy, where he said, "I don't like reading, but I love having being read." And that's exactly how I think about it. So I've got that's why I've said I've got a cursory understanding of Socionics. I could like I've already sociotyped all the people I work with in my head, for example. I'm like, I know how to speak with this person like this, blah, 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 blah. But, it is all, until there's some like actual proof and evidence that it's consistent as a system, like with actual studies, I'm not going to like completely buy it. But once that's there, I'm like, that's why he's popularizing. That's what 16 personalities does really well. That's what Socionics needs. Myers-Briggs does such like sorry I can't talk too much, but like,
no, you're being interviewed. You're meant to talk too much.
Yeah. All right. I'll just nonstop ramble then. Because 16 personalities is so easily accessible because they have the little icons. It's so you can see one of those pictures like anywhere, and you know exactly what it is, and it's easy to put in like bios and stuff. But like Socionics kind of has like a cult of intellectualization in a way, which I kind of just like. What it needs to be able to do is to like bring people into it. It's not personable. people aren't attracted to. So if it wants to work as a system, you know, like say for example, right, like our buddy Lamb Sauce, my boy, like
Yeah.
I think he could do very well in that field if he actually put in the effort. But like he needs to do some mad scientist shit, you know. He needs a
Yeah.
white instead of like his little notes, he needs a whiteboard going, well, actually, guys, blah blah blah, like playing it up and like writing in jokes. And I think that could work really, really well, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, we're gonna be doing a debate at some point in the near future. We got a debate to have. We just need to do it. He's asked me when he wants. He's chased me up. I've been too busy. But we need to do it. I'm just always too busy. But okay, let me ask you. So what do you work in now? What's your role right now?
certified legend. No, I'm a kitchen
Certified
hand.
legend, a kitchen man. Right.
Kitchen hand. Yeah.
And what caused you to become the kitchen hand?
I just found this kitchen and I felt really bad for them. They needed my presence there. No. It was just like a local job. I hadn't been working for a little while.
Yeah.
Because I was a lazy fuck. So I was like, well, there's basically a free position. I'm gonna take it. You know,
Yeah.
I might as well. And now I'm quite enjoying it. And there's an opportunity for like an apprenticeship to become a certified chef there. And I quite like the food environment because of like it's so fast and like I hate paperwork. And I know you're gonna get paperwork further on in the career, but I love the practical nature of just being able to be like, I'm here. Let's make something amazing for somebody. They're out there, they're eating it, compliments back from the chef. Let's go, you know. That's like it's a dream. And like even like being if you're in a higher position, being able to manage the team sounds like it'd be really fun. There's a lot of room for banter, you know, that's a big thing for me. Like for example, I did like my other jobs have been like pick packing and like construction. And like in construction it was similar, but it was a lot rougher of a tone. Whereas it feels more collaborative in the food industry. I don't know. It's just I'm very scattered, so there's like a million things I want to do. To be fair, like I did a year for like last year I did a year of psych because I was considering doing like being a therapist. But I realized as time went on that's probably not the role for me. I'd like a dream role is like a presentational role. I'd love to do comedy or something. That'd be really fun. But I'm too lazy to do that.
Why is becoming a therapist not right for you?
I'm just thinking about like what is the actual day like? What does a work day look like as a therapist? And it's going to be writing out things, doing prescriptions, sitting talking to somebody for a while. And I think that with personal relations, like I'm pretty good at that. Like I feel maybe this is arrogant. But I feel like I get people really quickly and easily. You can kind of see where their values lie. And with that, I'm good at like just listening, sitting there, not saying too much. And if they just want emotional support, can do that. If they want advice, do that, etc. I had a lot of people say that I was the therapist friend for a good while, you know. So like, center. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I might as well use this like to my advantage. It's a well-paying job. It's interesting, you know. But then once I got into like the really nitty-gritty, I was like, I don't want to remember all this. I hate this. Tiny details, disgusting. Get the fuck out of my face, you know. So,
what sorts of tiny details were especially triggering?
I remember specifically. It's so bad. It makes me look sorry, future employers, if you ever see this. That like there was a section where we had to. It was basically just Microsoft Excel, and it was like learning. There was just like a whole class of that, and it was like you have to follow this exact procedure and do these exact things. And I was like, oh, my soul has been fucking murdered, dude. This sucks. I hate this. I don't want to do this. I want to talk shit with people. And like realizing that was kind of like good, you know, because I've loved like watching like comedy sets and stuff for a good while. And like even like I remember going to watch one like live, like just like a local act. Because you know, there's a really a scene for New Zealand comedy. There is, but it's like, you know, tiny. And being like, it's like a frustration thing. I'm watching this and I'm like, I can do better than this. I'm funnier than you. Get me up on stage. Fucking hell. But like, I didn't because I was nice and polite. But like, yeah, it's just like it's fiddly things. That's why like Socionics is a bit hard for me because like I know quadras, I know all the functions. You can see the types easily sometimes, but like getting into like you know like positivistic, deterministic outlook and all that, etc. Like all that when it gets into the very specifics, like my attention just starts waning, and I'm like, for fuck's sake. Like, there's been a working theory that I've had ADHD for a good while, and I went to a doctor for it, and he just believed me. Bro was just like, it was like a 30-minute conversation. He's like, oh yeah, here, take some Ritalin. And I was like, this wasn't no test. You just I could have said anything, motherfucker. So like, I don't know.
All right. Let me see. So in what situations do you feel like you're least confident?
I don't really know. Maybe it's because I'm the best at everything. No, but like there's probably like some things like it'll just be like memory stuff, like specifics again. Like say I had like a whole list of things I had to do in a day, but a lot of it was like dealing with technology that I didn't really know much about. And I had to like, normally I'm good at figuring things out on the fly, but like I need to have a bit of time for that. And if I didn't have the time for it, I would just be like, fuck. Or if like somebody has like really, really high standards, I'm of the attitude, it's like a very Kiwi attitude to say, oh, she'll be right. It'll be fine. It'll be right. And a lot of people don't like that, especially with the perfectionistic. So yeah.
All right. So I'll flip it around. When you're at your most confident?
Probably like, like for example, like I make music and stuff. There's nothing too insane. Don't worry. I don't know fuck all about theory. I should do. I want to. But like if I've like just made like I love the feeling of like when it like you've made like a whole track out, right? And you like leave it, and the next day you come back and listen to it, and you're like, this is actually really good. This is kind of fucking awesome. Or like even like I don't know, like it's just when you're doing something really well in something and you can really see it, and like I love having like the feeling like rise up over you, like I can feel the power of God in my fingertips. It's awesome. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Let me see. So, do you have many friends?
No, I'm a loner. Now I have friends. Like I don't really have a massive circle. I used to be a lot more social, but like now I care more about like people who actually give a shit, because some people I think nobody likes fakeness, but like it really matters to me. Like for example, I had like a birthday thing recently, and one of my like close friends was living far away, and he called me up to like say, I'm sorry I couldn't be there, happy birthday, etc. And it really touched, because I was like, I don't know many people who would do that, who would intentionally go out of their way. And I think that like shows that somebody actually cares. And I care more about that. We don't have to have the same interests. You just have to be like passionate. You actually have to care. You have to be real, motherfucker. Be a real human,
Right. So it's people who go to lengths to show that they care for you. That's what you're looking for.
Well, it's not even just whether they care for me. It's more like if they care about their life, because, and even then, like say, you can take somebody really just passionate, right? They don't care about much, but if they really cared about one thing, like say somebody was hyper analytical and like they just spent all day working at something really niche, I would much more appreciate that and the authenticity of it than somebody who was just like in a position because like they had to be, or like they're making too many concessions to other people. And it's fine to compromise, but you need to make a balance. You need to have self-respect. And like I'd much more respect somebody if they like came up to me and I knew them and they're like, I really dislike this thing that you're doing. Could you please stop that? Than somebody who was like, I don't know. I don't want to make any issues. Sorry, FE users, cry about it. But I don't know. Like, do you mind if I ramble about something very, very quickly?
Ramble away.
Let's go. Rambling time. I've noticed over time, those that have been into socionics for a little while, this is where it gets a lot of people slipped up. And I know you're obviously going to like have your own type of conclusions into this, but most people I meet seem to agree that I'm in any base. What's really interesting is like people really can't figure out whether I have like FI or TI,
Yep.
which is really wacky because as I bring up earlier, like the little fiddly bits, you'd think TI would be more interested in that, but and it makes me want to die. And I get really passionate and I care about those things within people. But also, as you mentioned before, I'm quite critical of things. I like classifications. Like I'm interested in politics and stuff, specifically social politics. And I had like a phase for like a year or two, like on Discord and stuff. I was just like arguing with people like all the time, specifically like Socratic method shit. You know, like I was worshiping Socrates during this time period because I'm like,
Yep.
well, if I have a belief and you have yours, if I want a moral outcome out of this, then I want to have the most accurate position. And if my position is wrong, then show me how it's wrong. And through this, I've argued with people of many extremes, you know, and every time like it forces me to like look at, well, is this actually true? Let me test this theory. Is it true? Oh, actually they're wrong. Oh, well, fuck you, eat my ass. I was correct the whole time. So those like traits mix people up. And I think it's really funny to me. So I'll be interested to see the conclusion. Maybe I'm a base EIE, who knows?
Maybe you're EIE. I think someone's already posted in the comments that they think you might be EIE, so we'll have to see.
Everybody says that. Everybody's an EIE, bro.
I'm an EIE.
Yeah, so true, dude.
Yeah. Right. So let me see. Let me see what else I can say. I can ask. Okay. What brings you joy in life?
Beauty. That's the thing. I had like for like a few good years, I still had depressive like tendencies, but like during high school it was quite sad, and I like listened to a lot of sad music, you know, Radiohead phase, you know, all that bullshit. Oh, my life is so hard. Shut up, idiot. But then like I had this like trip. I love psychs, but like I haven't done a psychedelic for a few years now, where like it like kind of broke me out of that because like I could really witness. I really showed me how beautiful things could be, and I was like, holy fuck! Like I wasn't like suicidal or anything, but like, and like that really made me go, wow, life actually is really like really fucking cool, you know. And just reading philosophy like Albert Camus, you know, I love him, and like the whole rebellion against the universe, it's just so empowering, and I love that. And you know, that's why like I like when people are passionate about something, when they really care, because it's like you're seeing the meaning of their life within a moment, within a flash. Like you can see the beauty twinkling in their eyes. It's fucking awesome. So yeah, I don't know. Like
Tell me that experience, what was beautiful about it?
It was kind of like, I know like you can't expect like too much going into psychedelics, of course, because like you don't have any control over it. But like I was listening to like one of my favorite albums from a guy called Blade, IEI King. And like it was very, the album was called 333, and it was like, it's not religious per se, but it has very spiritual like inclinations. I don't believe in a soul. I don't think they could exist, but I don't think we have any objective measures to show they do, so I don't believe in them. But I would still say, when people say you live spiritually, I think I'd say I'm spiritually, existentially, like comfortable, and that like helped with that, because I'm listening to this shit, and like there's a specific moment where I was like pitch black in my room in the middle of the night on 2 tabs of acid, like listening to this fucking thing with headphones, and like I could just, for whatever reason, like I could see everything in 360, and it like I was like, how is this even possible? It was like blowing my fucking brain, and like I was tearing up. I could feel it going down my face, because I was like, wow, this is unbelievably gorgeous. And thinking of things like the Platonic forms, you know, like it really felt like I was like just experiencing the Platonic form of beauty and like what things could be. And it was just invigorated me. I was like, wow, you know, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I see. Thank you. Thank you. So it was all like an altered sensory experience that was also interlinking with an intellectual exploration you were engaging in at the same time. And that sort of tied it together, as it were. You could see all around you, even though it wouldn't necessarily have been possible, but it's almost the perception was that you could see all around you, everything was 360. And you were reflecting on Platonic forms, which are, you know, these sort of very sort of abstract things which float above nature. That is interesting. Okay, and yeah, for you, it was a gorgeous sensation, a gorgeous experience. It was a beautiful experience. It was something that was sublime in its nature in some way.
Yeah, yeah. Sublime's a good way to describe it. It was just like,
Mm.
wow. Yeah.
Mm.
There's not really much else to say. That's what everybody says after a trip. Yeah.
So just tracking back a bit. So you said you were not very happy before that experience. You weren't suicidal, of course, but you were
Yeah.
having a hard time. What was causing that hard time, if you don't mind me asking?
Um, it was like an existential nihilism in a way.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like I was kind of over intellectualizing things too much, and I started to
Mhm.
romanticize my depression in a way where fucking somebody calling me on Discord. Get out of here.
Yeah, get
Um,
out of here.
get out of here, bastard. Um, but yeah, there was just like a moment in time where like I felt very isolated. Um, here's a good example. Like, so at my school that I went to, on our last year, they had these 3 blocks, right, where you get a
Yeah.
free period,
Yeah.
and there was like 50% of the students had this one block, 49% had one block, and 1% had this other block. And I was in the 1%. There was like 3 people free during that time, and I didn't know any of them. So you'd be walking past all the classes, everybody working, and it was like it was really cool in a way, but like I was in that mode of like having headphones on and like listening to sad music and wistfully looking out, and I think that's where philosophy really helped me, because like when I got into it, it's existentialism that like speaks the most to me.
Mhm.
um like you get, I know, Kantian stuff and all that bullshit, and like it's interesting, but it doesn't feel affirming, and I guess it didn't really have a strong meaning at the time. I've never had like, some people, they just know what they're gonna do. I've never been able to like, I just don't understand that. Like, I want to do this. You're like 12 years old. I'm gonna be a fucking CEO of a thing, and they work their whole life to get there. And I'm like, how do you just know that? How do you know that's gonna make you happy? I was more interested in like, how do you find what makes you happy? And now it's like a Buddhist kind of thing where I'm like, you're as happy as you allow yourself to be, even if you're in shit
Yeah.
conditions. You can still, you know. There's like a book called fuck. I just gave it out to a friend to read. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. I think that's his name.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
about a guy who like, I don't know if you read it, but like, who was in a concentration camp and like survived, and he writes about like how he like uses a specific kind of therapy, and like
Yeah.
those stories of like just strength. It was just like, yeah, I don't know, I was enamored by it. It was really cool. And so like focusing on those things, there's also a specific part of a philosophy like podcast that like I was interested in, where they were
Mhm.
talking about optimism versus pessimism. And for a good while, I was like completely neutral. I was like, if I want to be absolutely reasonable, like it's like TI worship shit. I was like, if I want to be absolutely reasonable, I've got to kind of disconnect my ego from things and just be completely analytical. But like that just made me kind of sad. But now that I'm like, live with passion more, don't be a pussy, don't be scared. I was like, actually, it's kind of cool. It's not too bad.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, what was it about existentialism that you found affirming?
Well, I said this in the diagnostic that I'm like a hard determinist.
Yeah.
I'm not like religious or anything. People can be religious. I don't really care. I think everybody, okay, like, have you ever heard somebody say they have a God hole? Like, I think that's like actually from like It's Always Sunny or some bullshit. Like, I've got a God hole in my heart and it's missing. I don't know. What do I do? That's like the existential void. And like, everybody's got to answer it somehow. And people do it with religion, and people do it with work, etc. And I think it's all this existential problem. And that's the fundamental issue with life, is like finding a way to make it worth living. Because at the end of the day, when you pass, you got to look back in life and be like, am I comfortable with this? And any possessions you have, doesn't matter how much money you have, maybe that legacy's nice, like Jay-Z saying that he wants to like pass on his money to his children, otherwise it's like all worthless. Like, I respect that, but that's more of like that's the passion thing I'm talking about, right? Like, that's somebody who actually cares.
Yeah.
For me, I don't want to be attached to anything like material. I want to just like find that inner comfort, and I think I have. more recently. Like, I mean, I find I'm pretty effeminate looking, and like I present that way quite a lot, and I get a lot of hate for that. A lot of people go, "Oh, what the fuck is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "That's your issue, your problem, coward. Cry about it."
Thank you. So, what characteristics in people tend to irritate you or frustrate you?
Arrogance and closed-mindedness generally. I think.
Yeah.
You can like that's why I self compromise. Like you can have it so like if you're really okay, think about it like this, right? You only have so much time in the world to do what you want to do, to postulate your positions, etc., right? You need to have the space open to be able to change that. And when when you meet somebody who's like some completely self-assured and they're like, no, I know the truth, I know the gospel, I'm gonna bring it to you guys. Like it's just so painful when they can't actually like reason, like say for example, I'm not gonna come at people too hard about this, but like I've had many religious discussions and I hate dogma. Dogma is something it just like
yeah.
And if they can't reason, my thing is if you can't defend a position, why do you even believe it? And when some people just go, oh well, I just believe. I'm like, well, you don't have real conviction. You can't even defend your shit,
Mm-hmm.
And so when people just completely, I don't know, you get the gist of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do very much. Okay, so another question: who is your best friend, and why are they your best friend?
I won't say their name, but they'll know if they watch this. They'll know what I'm talking about. There's the guy who called me up on my birthday. We were like during like high school, we were both sad boys, and like as I said, like during those periods where like I was like one of the only people who were free, he was free during that time, and he was kind of sad and angsty, and I was too. But like I was more reasonable than him, to say. Generally speaking, you wouldn't think that that'd be the kind of person I'd really get along with, but like he was so passionate about things, and like again, like really cared, and like I could see it with how he would act about things, and it just stuck. I got a lot of respect for that. Like I don't know, generally, and it's just similar interests. We both love music, we both love shows, talking about things. Getting into the whys of stuff. He's just more like narrowed in on like his specific passions, and like I respect it. Yeah. And a similar sense of humor. Anybody you can banter with. I love. He's not like so specifically like insane at this, but before I did this kitchen hand job, I had a previous one, only for like 4 weeks because I was a shitbag there, and I was like at my maximum annoying level. And there was this one guy there who was very witty. He might have been like an ENTP or something. And I love it when people would just give you shit, but like it's all good fun, Like they can like do a good barb. I remember like during that time I was reading an audiobook of what is it called? The Republic. I was really interested in it. And then he asked me like the next day, like if I like knew the name. It was like a priori or something, if I knew that. And I was like, I don't know that. He's like, aren't you the philosophy guy, dude? Come on, you could do this. I was like, fuck you, dude. Fucking dickhead. But I love that. It's so fun. So that's a bit off the topic of the thing. But those are like, I appreciate those traits in people, And even then you get the very nice people. Like one of my coworkers is like ISJ, very sweet. Like nobody can hate them. How the fuck can you hate them? It's only like Nietzschean motherfuckers who are like, no, you have to grab life by the balls. I'm like, you don't have to. They're clearly happy, Yeah. They're doing their own thing. Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because on the one hand, right, the people who are who don't grab life by the balls, they're quite kind of conflict averse sorts of people. These are also the people who perhaps aren't going to be the ones who are going to show that much passion and that much conviction, perhaps. So does that would that cause you to be dismissive of them, or are you all right with them?
I'm all right with them. Well, it just depends on how you go about it. It's the difference between like doing it because you actually care about it versus doing it to get along.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, again, thinking of like a work scenario, like I'm not so bold in work, right? I'll still make jokes. I'll still be a bit wacky, but like,
Yeah.
I understand that if I'm going to be there for months and months, possibly years on years, I can't be fucking making waves, you know? So you have to sacrifice that a bit. But like, that's because it's in my moral principles. You know, I think it's the correct thing to do. If you believe in this moral principle, you have to act in accordance with it. If you don't act out your values, then they're not even real. They're just in your head.
Right.
Even speaking them and like making them known and like communicating that is an action in of itself. But if it just fucking floats around in there with like no purpose, then like why, you know? So like if someone that's why I'm saying if they're genuinely nice. If they're fake about it, if they're just doing it because they feel they have to, well, that's a little bit. That's kind of in line with what I'm saying. It's like an obligation that like you're. What's the word I'm looking for? Like begrudgingly doing. It's like if you're like, oh, I'd rather not, but I have to. Versus like, no, I actually want to do this. Then like that's a big distinction for me. It has to be voluntary. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Right. So it doesn't matter who you are, as long as what you're doing it voluntarily. That's what is important. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, like as another example, sorry, but like I had like a phase. Well, like when I was I'm still interested in politics, obviously, but I was like trying to read like anarchism and like anarchist communism stuff specifically. There's a lot of values in there that I really appreciate. I don't think it's practically going to work in the world, but like I kind of like the idea being set in place, and a big part of that is voluntary work. You know, like they'll make the criticism that like a problem with capitalism is that you have to work to survive. If you want to get your rent done, if you have to do this, blah blah blah, you have to go to work. Otherwise, you're going to starve on the streets, right? If you have no family, they can't protect you. They have to work, right? And that whole system's kind of fucked up to me, but it's just how it is. And I would be like, well, it would be nice if everything was voluntary, you know, because then people would actually do what they want to do. Yeah.
Thank you. I got another question about. I got a question about determinism. So what I'd like to ask you is, what is it about determinism that you find attractive?
Well, it's not so much that it's attractive, it's just that it seems accurate. I have to believe it because that's the most consistent. Yeah, exactly, right? Like for example, I have doubts about it potential, like for example, like Hawking radiation. Like how like I've heard like theory that like the Big Bang happened because there was nothingness, and then like a Hawking particle just beep, and it all exploded after that, right?
Yeah.
And the thing with that stuff is like through like the quantum slit experiment, all that bullshit, like you can't really predict the quantum world. So, you know, it might not actually be deterministic. I don't actually know. But is it the most viable like that I've seen so far? Well, yeah, if it's the most likely, then I have to believe the most likely.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And with determinism, that comes the idea, of course, that people cannot help but be what they are caused to be. So I guess there's a question there in terms of if everyone's caused to be by events before them, how can you,
like be existentialist?
well, for instance, how can you be? Existentialist could be one part, but also it's how do you form a sense that someone is actually, you know, compromised who they are versus that's just a situation they've been forced to be? Do they have any choice?
Yeah. Well, it's complicated, but like, okay. So this is where I try to make the distinction between the rational and irrational mind, right? I think in an objective sense, everything's predetermined. I don't believe in free will, but we have to act as if we do have free will. Because, so like, say for example, like, I am the combination of everything that came before me, right? But I'm still conscious and I'm still aware. That consciousness is still going to be affected by the predetermined everything, etc. Right? I'm just a logical conclusion of, you know, but that's not what I experience life as. You experience life as if you are able to make the decisions. So like, it's like it's not a blissful ignorance per se, but like, I think it's just a fact of reality that if you're ever going to function, you can't just like completely go, well, I can't do anything because regardless of whether or not it's under your control, you still perceive it as being under your control. You have to act in that fashion. So I'm like, well, that's where the irrational mind comes in. You have to give that up. You have to be like, well, this is something that I'm just going to have to cope with, deal with. Who cares, right? Get over it. It's not worth worrying about.
Okay, thank you. All right. I think, well, actually, I kind of had your typing earlier on, but I thought I'd give it a good test just to see where things would go. Maybe ask you one last question, which is, in let's say in 20 years from now, where would you like to be? What would you like to be doing?
I want to be presenting something of some kind. Like it could be the dreams would be like musical artist, comedian, YouTuber. That's like the dreams, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have the work ethic to really bring them apart because again, I'm lazy. But like, you know, that just seems like the right role for me. I love like being able to like just say something funny and like have everybody go like, oh shit. You know, you got the, or like to just like make a work that like stands the test of time. You know, that's like a good thing that me and that friend were like wanting to do. Like, you know, come across some new idea, come across something that hasn't been done before, or do something that has been done to the highest level and like elevate it. You know, like it's like the platonic form of beauty again. Like, you know, I actually think that's what people consider God. You know, like people talk about God, talk about the ultimate perfection. I'm like, well, you're talking about the platonic form of like anything good. That's kind of like what I'm aiming for if I'm going to do anything like that. But I'm also, again, with the irrational brain going like, well, you also have to be able to like fuck up. You also have to be willing to do stupid things. So I did that out of a rock career, I guess, but that's life, you know?
Makes sense. All right. So let me tell you what I think you are. I think there's been quite. Let me just look for what people are talking about. Okay. There's been. Let's see what's been going on here. What people have been arguing. Oh, we've been jumping around. I see. Some people thinking EIE. Some people thinking IEE. I know Wesley's definitely thinks think you're an alpha. Someone's saying EII, ESI.
I think II. I'm the avatar of types, bro. I'm every type at once. I'm like J-Reg, dude.
Every type at once.
Everything.
Now,
I
I think that Jonah's arguing you're SLI. Okay. I think Wesley has it. I agree with Wesley. I think an alpha type. And yes,
SCI. Let's go. Can I say something really quick? Oh, you just made my day with that, dude. Fucking our boy Lamb Sauce is like, no, you're an IE. You have to be an IE. And he got mad at me because I kept arguing for ILE. And he was like, no, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm like, well, joke's on you, buddy.
I'm pretty sure ILE. What I would say is that, the extrovert intuition is pretty clear. It's ideas and possibilities all over the place. You don't like narrowing down those possibilities. You want to keep things very, very open. You started off in the intellectual. You are an intellectual guy, right? Who wants to have that very chill, very social, very sort of passionate experience of life. And you want to go towards being a presenter, being someone up in front of everyone. Your style of presenting, right? How you come across to people, right? Your extroverted ethics, it's pretty similar to what I expect for an ILE in their 20s. It's not very refined yet. Often you answer my question by saying the opposite of what you actually mean because you're doing it in the joking way or you're going to absurdist humor. It's a very much an extroverted ethics thing because you're sort of fishing for little reactions when which is something ILEs often do. I certainly used to do that when I was in my 20s. What else would I say? Lots of expressions going on at different points, but not necessarily connecting to the one on the one-to-one side. I was asking some questions about introverted ethics. You're quite confident actually talking to people and relating to them. But I didn't really see any clear sign of introverted ethics coming in. I think, you've got your friend, but when you're assessing the closeness of someone to you. It's not really close. It's not even the closeness of someone to you. You're assessing if that person is living a compromised life, or if they are living
Yeah.
a life that is in alignment and true to their beliefs and their principles. And for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
consistent to their beliefs and principles is what you respect. No matter what it is, that is kind of what you like to see in someone. And someone who's sort
Yeah.
of equivocating in their principles, sort of all mucked up and living a life which is different to always compromising themselves. You don't like that. You want, so it doesn't matter
Mm.
what they are. They could even be a Nazi, as long as they are clear and consistent in terms of what their structures are. You're going to respect that, and that's a very introverted, logic-oriented way of sizing people
Yeah.
up.
It's intellectual honesty, right? Like,
Yes,
I can only
yes,
respect you if you're intellectually honest. If you're not, then like shut the fuck up. You're just dogmatic. You know.
yes, exactly. Now, when it comes to morals and values, all the rest, the thing is, you got existentialism on the one hand, but you also have the
Mm-hmm.
determinism side, and you're
Yeah.
you're fine with. And it's interesting how you layer and structure different philosophies alongside each other, almost like
Mm.
a cake of different
Yeah.
philosophies, one floating above the other. You know that one is the actual truth, and the other one is essentially a philosophy for what you're actually doing and your
Yeah.
and the sort of subjective experience within the objective. And
Yeah. It's an objective and subjective
yes,
framework. Yeah. You have to be able to do both.
yes. So you have a very fluid use, but still sophisticated use of introverted logic,
Mm-hmm.
which enables breadth alongside the layering and the structuring. There's lots of extroverted logic in there as well, but it's not valued for its own
Mm-hmm.
sake. It's not valued for its own
Yeah.
sake. It's something which, yeah, you're drawing from. You got access to factual information, but that's not ultimately what you feel is important for you. It's about the social experience. It's about the passion. It's about the emotivity that you're having with people. It's having
Mm.
that fun around others and that banter. The
Yeah.
Also, I didn't find any example of actual extroverted sensation being valued, or even
Mm-hmm.
introverted intuition. There was very little. There was very little to me to suggest that you are someone who is ultimately about knowing what the outcome is you want to go towards, and having that kind of intensity to push or fight or become more empowered in a sort of more physically dominant way. You like
Yeah.
admiration. You like that sense of people are admiring you for you doing something. That's more of an extroverted ethics feeling of ego. It's not
Mm-hmm.
quite the same. And that profound experience you had when you were basically tripping out was almost a sort of pseudo introverted sensory experience. And in almost this
Mm-hmm.
idea that you are chasing that perception and experience of beauty in your day to
Mm-hmm.
day.
Yeah.
So that is something which is yeah, the pursuit of beauty, the pursuit of not the sublime but otherworldly. It's not an otherworldly
Mm.
subliminity. It's rather
Yeah. Yeah.
you having that experience confirmed to you that that sublime experience is something to be found in this world, not
Mm-hmm.
some other world. And that
Yeah. Yeah.
seemed to almost cure aspects of that depression you were going through. It's almost like
Mm-hmm.
you were intellectualizing things, you were breaking down your perceptive, experiential reality into all these sorts of ideas and concepts and frameworks, but you weren't finding that oneness of qualia in it, and that beauty of qualia, and
Mm-hmm.
that hallucinogenic experience kind of reaffirmed to you there is a beauty of qualia to be found. And now it's about sort of finding that in each moment with each social interaction. Um,
Yeah.
so there is sort of a seeking out of introverted sensing there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very clear, but that's what I would also expect from someone who's an early in their 20s. The
Yeah.
extroverted ethics you are taking on as your thing to become, which is, I
Mm-hmm.
think makes sense. Again, there's a certain, you're not at the same time you're not doing what EIEs would often do, which is already being very mindful of your image and how that's going to look further along. It's very rare I
Mm-hmm.
get EIEs on this in this sort of presentation unless they've really thought about how they're going to present themselves in that, and you haven't really done that. You know, you've gone for sort of the authentic sloppy look, which Eileys often go for. That's how I would go for it. That's how Lamb Sauce goes for it as well. You know, because for you, it's not about controlling an image. It's actually about I want to be me in all my weirdness and oddness, and somehow, not sure how, I ideally want people to accept me for that.
Exactly.
Where there's always a risk you might not be accepted for it, of course, but there's always that difficulty.
Do you mind if I add in a metaphor real quick?
Feel free.
All right, lovely. I remember I've thought about this a few different times over the years, but like, that's like coming back from when I was a little kid. I remember being asked, "Do you prefer English or maths?" from a teacher when I was like something years old, because they were like, I didn't, and I realized I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was being asked like, "What do you want to do when you're older?" I was like, "I have no fucking idea." And I picked English over maths because maths is it takes the soul out of it, and English makes you could write about anything. And during that engagement, they asked like they said that I seemed like I was floating, and like floating through life, and I think that's pretty accurate because I'm not the forceful SE type. And now I've developed that to be more like imagine you're on a river and you're floating down the river, and you've got like a little canoe or something.
Yeah.
And some people will have jet boats and they're going straight past. And along this, you'll find little different islands with like different houses and biomes and all these different things. You go into them and go, "Oh, look at these little experiences. This is so nice." But if you wait too long, the canoe's going to keep going down the track, and you've got to go back on. And if you miss it, then you might be stuck on that island. But then if you never go to any of the islands, you're just going to be going on forever and never. You're just going to be on a one track to the end of the river, but the river never finishes, right? Life ends, but we don't know if that actually is the end of your existence. So like you can't make a prediction. There's a waterfall, you're going to die at the end of it. Who knows? So I'm just like, I'm going down this. I want to see as much as I can. I want to understand as much as I can. I'm sorry if that was like pretentious or something, but like it was just in my brain, and I think it's interesting.
but there's also that sort of impulse of yours. If you found a way to collapse the complexity down to a sort of neat little metaphor, it's going to be hard for you to prevent yourself from actually offering that input to the interaction and seeing how people then react to what you've said. So that makes a lot of sense. Again, very quick systemizing mind there. That is very much supporting the pursuit of breadth of understanding and experience. And there is a pursuit of beauty there, but saying if it comes to if it's about you having to concentrate too much on all the details yourself, that becomes too draining quite quickly. It's,
draining is a good way to put
the
it.
ideas.
It's quite frustrating.
You can't quite keep track of all of them, but you kind of want someone to almost help you into that sort of sublime experience.
Absolutely. I want somebody to just like to take my unstructured life and just go, "I'm just gonna fucking do all this shit. Now you go do your thing," and I'll thank you so much. Now I don't have to worry about life anymore. It's just sorted. Let's go.
So makes sense. What did you get in Myers-Briggs? Was it ENTP or ENFP?
ENTP. My like full typing I get typed like I'm an ENTP 7 wing 6. People always get fucked up on the instincts. Funnily enough, I've been typed like every instinct down the book. Tri types. The easy one people go to is 749. I had a good friend who was like trying to write an Enneagram book. Funnily enough, typed me 721. They think I have too strong a superego influence. I focus too much on the platonic forms and like chasing them, trying to embody them, etc. It's too head up in the clouds. But
you're just philosophical. That's the thing. You make a point about talking and very openly about the ideas you're interested in at the moment, and in terms of their philosophical underpinnings. But I would say that's even up in the cloud. It's more you see things in terms of philosophical structure.
I'll even add on to that, like say for example, like as I was talking about like recent hip hop stuff, there's like so stupid I'm bringing this up. Like there's this new guy Yeet. His name's Yeet on the board, and a lot of people hate him, a lot of people like him, but like his style is very like minimized and like beats are very cyclic, and like Can I stop getting called, please? Oh my god, I'm just gonna close Discord.
I think they want to join our discussion.
Yeah, they're watching the stream. They're like, I'm ruining it. I'm ruining it for everybody. Let's go. Like this guy's like style so simplistic and like, but like it's very interesting if you understand like how hip hop has evolved and all that. Like, it's a very drastic change, and it's very interesting to me. I'm like, wow, where is this going to go next? How are people going to utilize this? You know, and in the large sphere, it's actually quite a big change. And even if some people might say, oh, it's stupid, it's redundant, you know, like there isn't very much like musically happening, to so to speak. Like they're not changing modes or like, you know, doing circle of fifths or anything like that. But like that, it doesn't have to. It's a completely different lane, you know. You have to assess things by what they are. What I try to do at the very least is like, if it's a piece of art, I'm just like, what are they trying to do with it? What's the point of it? Have they succeeded? You know, like it's like, say somebody was like trying to troll somebody, like they might make like a really shitty product and people might say, oh, that product isn't even done properly. But if it was done to piss you off, well, then it's done the fucking job. That means it was successful. So you evaluate it on those bases instead of like, you know, yeah.
That makes sense. Again, you find in each case the rules of it, and then you judge it by the rules of it in that particular instance. So you go into each potential situation. You understand. You find where the introverted logic is, and you connect it together. Does it connect up? Yes. Or does it actually fail on its own terms? Therefore, it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Makes sense. All right. I think that's very clearly Eiley. I know it's caused some controversy for some other people here. Some people didn't see much extroverted logic. I think it's implicit in the amount of information you voluntarily offer, but it's not done for its own sake. It's very much for you. You're interested in the emotional effect you're having on people, not how much you can set out something which is practical. But you talked about situations where actually, if you're doing a role or a job, doing something practical, actually, you know, that's safe and you can do that very well. Putting together some food, for instance, there's a practical process being acted out. You're all right with that. You have no trouble with that. That's fine. You don't get sort of, you don't feel almost stressed out at almost the mundanity of it, which is more of the introverted sensation, devaluing of, say, an EIE, but also the you also seem quite confident that you can pick it up, learn it, and apply it very quickly, which suggests strength and confidence. Logic not being, let's say, a role function.
Well, you have to. I mean, my thing is like, if you're going into a job, like, you just can't beat yourself up. I used to beat myself up a lot for like fucking things up, but now I'm like, who gives a shit, dude? It's life. Get over yourself, you know. Like, I don't know, man. Like, this is a random example. Like, funnily enough, people like go, I at least so smart, but like, I was getting like shit at work for this because people were acting like I was stupid. I got to make Sundays, and I had to make a Sunday recently, and someone came up to me and was like, hey, for this order, you're going to need to have an extra bowl. And I was like a bowl of ice cream, and they're like, just like add an extra bowl. And I was like, I know, I was thinking like all the things. I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to make another bowl of ice cream, and I'm not going to put it on a board or anything. And I come up with it, and they like looked at me like I was a fucking moron. They're like, we meant just the bowl, just the bowl on its own. And I was like, but then say that. It's fucking, I have to infer it now. For fuck's sake.
But that's also, so you interpret it quite literally, and that led to sort of a mucking up. No, I've heard that. All right, so you know, we've got another hour for the follow-up session. We can do that. Would you catching up again next week, and maybe you can take some questions from the audience in that time?
Oh, that would be awesome. I love that. I've got a long weekend next week too, so that'll be extra good times. Okay. Lovely.
All right. Well, I will be in touch shortly via email just to sort out the details on that. In the meantime, thank you everyone for tuning in. I see there's a bit of mischief going on in the comments. I'm not sure what the context is, but all I say is this: be nice to each other, guys. Be very nice and kind to everyone. That would be greatly appreciated by all.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And Jonah Ledford wants you to add him on Discord, King Hyena. 7133. All right, fair enough. People want to do that, then feel free. Okay.
Yeah, my boy. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Goblin. Thank you, everyone. All the best.
See ya.